Good evening, good afternoon from me, Andrew Sparrow, and good morning from.
Yeah, and all those same things from me, Bryan Spellman.
We are back, yes, with a new and more extensive monthly show.
Okay, we're excited to bring this to you today. We're going to jump over to Sweden, to England, back to the US, over to the Netherlands. We're just doing a world tour today.
You bet. And we have our business lead based out of Stockholm talking about what is going on in digital engineering, smart manufacturing across the Nordics, number one.
And we're going to dive into the product lifecycle world at the digital manufacturing level and talk with a solution architect in high tech.
And number three, over recent years, we've been delivering total manufacturing solutions, but always been missing that deep, intelligent planning and supply chain solution. And so today we are announcing an official partnership between ourselves and one of, if not the leading supplier of enterprise planning solutions.
And then we're going to roll into the complex world of MBSE with not one, but two experts from both sides of the Atlantic.
And in between all of that, we got some news going on. So Bryan and I have been digging into what's going on in product lifecycle, digital engineering, manufacturing, what is going on in the world today, news-wise. So we're going to commercial break in between both of all of those different sections. So
yeah, so buckle up, get your coffee ready, and just get ready to enjoy the show.
Set, let's go.
Well, that was an exciting intro video. Whole new show, whole new layout. So excited to see what we have here. As we said, we're going all across the world. And first, we're going to head to a place that if you've watched us before, you've seen us head here a couple of times. And I guess it's fair to say that this person is about to become one of our regulars. He's our business lead for Western Europe. He has over 25 years in the product lifecycle. He's our very own Håkan Theobald, and let's just bring him in. So welcome to the stream.
Hello guys.
Hey Håkan, how you doing?
Thanks, I'm doing well. I've been a lot of traveling last weeks, but now I'm back home again and a lot of new challenges.
Driving around the UK, hey? It was good to see you, and we released you back through Brum Airport back to a slightly colder Stockholm, not maybe a lot colder, I must admit. So how was it back there?
It was really good. Actually, to come home too, and it's cooler here than where you are.
Yep.
But a lot of things we should go to businesses going on for us here in Europe, and I'm happy to join here today and share a little for you guys in a little limit of time. We have 10-15 minutes for it.
Speaking of a little limit of time, I'm just going to make us dive right in and stop this fun little chit chat. But no, what is going on? We've talked to you a little bit about this before, but what would you say overall is going on in the Nordics at a PLM level?
Yeah, a lot of things happen, so I have to take out some of the main areas. And I think one of the areas I will come back to that little later is the energy challenge we have here in Europe. And also then PLM, of course, is needed to solve part of it, and the engineering part of it. And I will come back to that. I think this is, everyone who lives in Europe knows this, how it's affecting us. And then I think another area which is very important is the defense. We have actually in Europe a war ongoing just now in Ukraine, Russia. And this affecting Europe, actually the whole globe. US is involved in supporting in one way.
Absolutely.
And all this then affecting the defense industry. And the PLM, is a main part for develop defense systems and also doing this, are defining needs and requirements. I heard you actually touching embassy later today. That's very hot topic for this area. And then last and not least is sustainability, guys. That's important. Our globe gets warmer and warmer. We have carbon targets. We are not even close to reach them. So what can PLM do there? And that's a lot of things ongoing there. New initiatives to manage to find new way to get fuels in other ways who don't adding carbon to the climate. But let me come back to that later. So this is a short summary of what I see coming here. And then I have to say a lot of more things happen that we have to bring up 3 areas here.
Yeah, so the first area you mentioned was the energy crisis. So tell us a little more about that.
The energy crisis has affected us here in Europe because a big part of it has come through gas as the energy. And gas is not, we have some challenges as the pipeline from Russia is actually cut off. So it's mainly, if you look in Europe, it's Germany and these countries have been relying a lot on gas. And this fact affecting then the whole Europe because we're supporting each other. So we have got a problem to find energy who replacing the gas. And here on the left side, you see then what's happened here is actually that we need to save, and this is ongoing now, everyone from Europe knows this. We have to save our energy consumption with around 40%. And we do that by taking down the heat in the house or high consuming industries, try also them to put their part of it. And in the end also just accept it. It will be higher price for energy. It is already, and that affecting then the products, the cost of products, which then create an inflation. And this is what's going on here in Europe. And it is a quite complex situation. Good news, there are solutions on the way. I have to say that I put the dark side here now. And then, so we have some solution and PLM can be a big part of it. So some insights, and this is it's much more happening, but if I should bring up some areas is that in an energy industry, they need fastest as possible turn to alternative fuels. As they have to start and investigate, create new solutions. Who is energy driven and engineering driven, and engineering driven projects, they need PLM solution to do the engineering, set up the requirement, prepare for production and do the production. So that's very PLM is core here to make it happen. There are some quite interesting projects ongoing in there. I just want to mention some before you had the question I heard, is that other areas who's coming more and more here is they're looking into water, create energy from water and wind and sun, and this is actually turning around just last year, going back and have nuclear plants. In Europe it was planned to take them off, and now they're coming back, and they will come back as a lot of countries looking into micro nuclear plant. Even where I'm coming from, Sweden have initiated this. And this is a huge, it's 180 degrees turnaround actually what's happening. And there you also need solutions from PLM who are specific for this type of industry, who can handle that, buildings and so on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So mainly kind of what, wind turbines, nuclear, are you other kind of macro solutions?
Sun
Solar.
energy, I think is very important.
Yep.
And it's even, and now jumping little, I will come back to it. It's also looked into using sun energy to drive cars, airplanes, and so it's coming back there too. We need to find alternatives. We can't stay with what we have and believe we'll solve it by that.
Got it.
But going back to Europe then, and this crisis is more how to replace the gas from Russia, and also that we have a new replacement as the nuclear plant is shutting down, and now we need to rebuild it. The good news, I just read this some week ago in news here, that there are alternatives. You don't need to just have gas. You can have liquid gas if you store the gas as liquid. And this contains our... Yes, so that solution is actually how we solve it this winter, because we are in winter now here in Europe.
Yeah. So you just mentioned Russia there with the gas, which brings us into the second topic you were talking about, which is what's happening with the war. So how is that related to this whole PLM discussion too?
The war is. Can you bring up the picture so I can follow it? So here,
it's certainly topical today because I know a whole bunch of tanks have been agreed to be sold, haven't they?
Agreed. Yes,
US, German, etc.
Yes. So what's happened is there are several, and this is the sensitive, but what's happened is that US is including West Europe, they try to support Ukraine with the defense systems. And they're getting more and more complicated. So as you mentioned, Andrew, even Finland, Poland, and Germany decided today. This happened today. And that's now we're stepping up in even more complicated defense solutions. It's not. It's actually you could be in attacking too. So this means if you go back to this forum, we should talk about PLM affecting, of course, defense industry. You need to engineer, produce more tanks. If you take your Andrew example, but it's also ammunition, drones, a lot of things. Yeah. And then also it's a challenge that they need to develop the more complex AI-driven solutions. A lot of systems today are digital, human bodies in there. And this is also key to get the latest and greatest, who is also happening. And you is supported with some quite advanced defense solutions here a half year ago, which has been very important for Ukraine in this war. But what's happened then is that NATO have decided to increase the expenditure. So they should increase the expenditure with 2% for the countries. I'm talking Europe countries. And that means, just to get some, understand, it's huge, it's billion. That means that every country in Europe will increase their spending with around 45%.
So is that a demand? So is NATO demanding 2% of each NATO member country? 2%?
NATO is a membership, so they have decided.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
And that's because they had and there are also, probably that, now I'm touching little my person here, Sweden and Finland also try to get into NATO. And just so you know, Swedish history, we have been neutral over 100 years. So this is a big change for us too. And that goes down to that we need to create better defense in each country too, due to the situation has changed just last year in Europe here. But going back to PLM, I want to say some words here too. I think this is very important. What areas in PLM? PLM is a huge word, it's more or less a buzzword. If you look in the products, then I think MBSE, and that's just happening here now today. We will talk about that. That comes from military industry to define the needs and requirement and communicate the needs and requirement to suppliers. And I know it's the front line is the US using this, and it will come. It's started to be used in Europe, but it will, I think, accelerate. That's a trend change. I think in PLM it will happen. And I also think simulation, engineering, and do simulation is needed here. It's complex, not so easy solution they're building here, so it's very important to have control. And finally, I just want to mention also the requirement management, because you have military industry, they have certification. It's very hard regulations, and that needs to be managed too. And PLM is key here to make that happen, and version handling and all this around that.
Yeah.
And the thoughts, guys, around this?
It's just
I mean, I think you can pull it through into manufacturing as well. I mean, they're going to have to produce consistent quality. They're going to have to produce things a lot quicker. So I think it really extends down into that digital twin, virtual twin. I think it's into manufacturing execution, manufacturing operations. I mean, the sector's very busy right now for unfortunate reasons, but it is what it is.
Yes. And exactly, it's a little sad, but that's what's happened just now. And I think I have to say it also, this military industry is of course not in Europe, it's in US and so on too. So it's actually affecting who. It's not Europe, the challenge, the war is, but everyone supporting around the world. Okay.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see just how in so many different areas we see PLM, which started off, at least in my career, as mostly just engineering, manufacturing, being shown in a whole lot of how it impacts our life in general, which I guess brings us to your last point, or your last.
Before we go to that last point, I have a question coming from our dear old friend RJ over in India. RJ, hey, pleasure, great, thanks for joining us again. So I don't know if you can see that, Brian, but RJ is asking, how do you change the mindset of leaders where realizing the energy alternatives through PLM takes time, but averting these crisis situations need quick turnaround time? Any thoughts, Håkan?
How do you change the mindset of the people who should do this decision? I read the question. I just don't need okay. That's actually honestly a challenge. This is not a technology question. So, but what's happened here, I'm a little happy, because if you looked one quarter before, back in autumn, I didn't understand how we should solve it. And what Europe have done, they have tactically decided to get liquid gas. They have bought up 80% of our storage filled with liquid gas just now. That means we handled this winter. Probably, I shouldn't say we have a good situation. We probably still have 40-50% still there in the summertime, because you understand, guys, it's in the winter period we have the problem here. So this is, I think, a good decision by leaders. Instead of discussing, investigating, they have just find other alternative ways to get this liquid gas. It came from some Arabic countries. I have no 100% insight, but I know some Arabic countries, and they have done some good quick.
And the US. So
yes,
the ships coming over. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's the short term. To answer your your first one.
OJ.
The second one.
OJ. Much easier.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it's my English. Sorry, man, about that. But then they're looking into long-term solution. This is a short-term solution. So we need to replace gas with other type of fuels. That's the bottom line, actually. And this initiative is started, and there are a lot of them around Europe happening. And that's what I'm seeing. This is where I get interested, because we can help a lot in this. So I think the mindset is fixing short term, because this came very unplanned. We got it. The gas line was collapsed in autumn. It was actually outside Sweden, Denmark. It exploded. Mm-hmm. So they can't send any more gas.
Yeah, so thanks for the question, RJ. That was actually a cool insight, and I like seeing your take on that too, Håkan. And speaking of, I guess, back to the whole idea of gas and how that might affect environments and everything else, your third point is dealing with, well, what's happening with PLM and this world in the Nordics and the environment.
Yeah. Europe, Brian, not Nordics.
Oh, sorry, Europe in general. Yes.
And a bigger scope than looking on Europe. So, and you can take up the picture back and start to talk around it. I think this is all of them is well known. Otherwise, it's strange. But how to handle that and what's happening here, that's what I want to touch upon. So, globe is for sure still, we don't reach the target. We have problem to reach the target. That's what's happening. If you look in each country, actually Sweden has been the front line on this. But we also have problem, to make that happen. And it's because other things happen on the globe. We can't focus on everything. And also we have challenges technology-wise to handle this. But I want to say good news here, Brian, is that we also start to establish here in Europe quite strong process to recycle materials. Mm-hmm. What I mean, just an example, if you buy a car today, it's quite, they know very well what material they can reuse. So they don't just, when it's retired, throw everything away. And this is handled then also by clever solution. Guess what? PLM solutions. What material do I use and what can I reuse? And this process starting to get in place. And I just use cars as an example. You can go through product line, actually. And then I think another area which happened is the lack of green raw materials. You need metallic materials to make the batteries and also electric engines and its other areas. This material is really hard to find. There are not so many mines on the globe. And if you look on the data around this, it's actually over 90% coming from China. So even US we're relying on China 100% more or less. So we need to build our own mining solutions with material. And we have just now investigation, where is this? And this is also PLM in. So create the mining, create these machines for it. There you have PLM is core playing even here. And the big suppliers for this using PLM solutions for it. And then finally, I want to say Internet of Energy. This is something people working this is Internet of Things is another buzzword, but Internet of Energy is actually how to manage energy supplier from producer down to consumer. And you need today, if I take electricity, it's actually everything, but you can use that. It's a challenge to transport electricity from north down to south. If Sweden have a cool day, how to get the energy to Sweden, because Europe, we are connected to each country. And that's not working so well today. That's a part of the problem. And there you need also solutions, which is for engineering and production, who comes from PLM. If you look on the right hand, thanks. So some areas which is a lot of projects around is the green hydrogen energy, also create a gas from water, if I do it a little dirty translation, and bio from rubbish from home, you throw it away and then you get gas. And these solutions are a lot of big initiatives ongoing here in Europe. And I think it's super interesting here what PLM can do for that. And actually, we also here, I'm not too good too much in XDLive, but we have touch point also in energy projects indirectly by supporting a big, looking into supporting a big supply producer of batteries. Okay, then we large investment on fine metallics. I mentioned that, and I didn't say that. I want to say that they actually found for 2 weeks ago, yes, they're very new. They found in Sweden, North Sweden, a huge metallic area. So I don't know in the ground. It's no mining there. They have found it, and they need to build the mining 10 years around. So it's not now; it's 10 years from now. But we start to see solutions where Europe can handle their own material, because if we have it in Sweden, then it's in Europe. And then I think it's also very important to mention here that automation of processes, I mean, Internet of Energy. So that's where PLM can support and make things working much better than in the past. And sorry, Andrew, you wanted to say something. Otherwise, I want to have a bottom.
No, finish up. We got a good question coming in. So keep going.
Good. Yes, and I want to share here also. I think this is cool. I'm seeing here in Europe there are ongoing a lot of pilot projects. So getting cars. Electric cars, nothing new, but now electric cars who get energy from sun. You don't need to charge them. Actually, they plan to charge other devices, opposite way. This is in pilot, that's ongoing now. And I also know, and you probably have seen that also, there are pilot. I'm not sure if it's in Europe, but I've seen a pilot around building flights, airplane who go on sun energy too. So I think this is the next step. We need to look into that to solve it. We can't just have it. We need to get the energy to the batteries, and we have to find it from other places than from gas or from water or sun energy to the electricity.
Good.
Okay, man.
Okay, we have a question come in from Avinash. Avinash, hi. Thanks for joining us. So Avinash asks, regarding, you got that one, Brian? You got it?
Yep, coming up.
Here you go. So regarding artificial intelligence and machine learning solution, how and what's the roadmap for artificial intelligence and machine learning to be integrated with product lifecycle management solutions? Interesting. I got some views. Go first, Håkan. I'd love to jump in there.
I need your help. To be honest, I don't know exactly the roadmap because it's very high.
Well, I mean, I think it's already in there. I mean, you've got generative design already coming in at the CATIA level. So, in fact, that's something we're dealing with right now actively. I think you've got the whole manufacturing operations side of things into maintenance. I think maintenance is the one that jumps out immediately right now, whereby you're looking at a lot of kind of AI tools, which is taking existing data, some of it's even manual, some of it's handwritten data, starting to pull that up into and allowing for predictive maintenance solutions to come through. Even not on the horizon, you've even got prescriptive maintenance starting to come through as well. And I guess one thing that's pretty interesting is later in the show, we're talking about a partnership with a group who have got some incredibly smart planning solutions. I don't know if it's AI. I would think it probably is right up there. So I think we'll be educated a little later on that one. But I mean, to me, that's the three immediate areas that I'm seeing. And I'm sure there's many, many more. They say AI is the biggest macro issue impact on manufacturing over the years ahead. There's no doubt.
I can add on at least one, Andrew. So thanks for jumping in here. So one is, which I have touched to, is actually after sales. You know, AI to put together a machine learning for actually how to set up the logistic for spare parts. There I have seen, I've been involved actually in that too for a big company here in Sweden. So they're using that and to handle that. And the complexity, if I should add on from my experience, is not the solution. It's there. The problem is you need smart guys who set it up. It's mathematics behind this, and you need people who have that, and that's hard to find. And because we're talking about not one person, you need more. So that's the area. If you have a young wanted to do career, you should go in there. Actually,
I think
we got another question
from
Sorry,
this. Yeah, from the questions coming in, I think it's giving us some really good things we need to cover in some future shows, especially we like talking about AI and the Internet of Energy just came in from RJ. We have a lot to cover this show, so if we we can't fit it all in, but we definitely want to put some new shows that cover these. And I just want to thank Håkan for being able to dive in and give us that overview and inspire a bunch of other stuff too, it looks like. So yeah, this is a great educational overview, and I really appreciate your time on the show this morning or this afternoon for you.
Morning,
evening.
You bet.
Evening, actually.
You bet.
It's always fine to join you guys. I'm looking forward, if possible, to come back again.
Oh yeah, we said you're going to be a regular. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your evening. And we'll dive into some more news. Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Håkan.
So we mentioned how we wanted to bring in every month a little bit of news that we're talking about in the industry and what's happening. So Andrew has scoured the internet to find the best news to talk about of what's happening in the PLM world.
So this is your chance to either get a quick coffee or stick with me while we kind of talk about some of the things that are going on. So Dassault Systèmes and IBM have announced a collaboration to accelerate the sustainable transformation of asset-intensive industries, care of virtual twin experiences. So I'm guessing maybe a little AI Watson going on in there as well, but I could be wrong. So obviously Dassault with the 3D Experience platform and Delmia virtual twin experiences, together with IBM's asset management IoT platform and their environmental intelligence suite, are looking to deliver actionable insights and solutions for modernizing assets, optimizing operations, and accelerating sustainability outcomes. So they start off in prioritizing infrastructure, energy, materials, and data center markets. In 2022, sustainability was identified by 58% of energy and resources CEOs as their greatest challenge, with 51% of them also considering it as a business opportunity will drive growth. At the same time, 44% of CEOs cited a lack of insights from data as a problem. So it's a big collaboration they've put together. Their knowledge sharing between systems engineering, manufacturing, and their operations teams, making faster, safer, and more sustainable operations decisions for assets, people, and processes. Interesting times. I look forward to that. We just heard one of our friends has just disappeared to IBM, so maybe he's getting involved in it. We shall see.
And since you've just introduced the use and benefits of virtual twins, let's just dive deeper into the Delmia digital manufacturing and the various capabilities that can include. So we'll bring in one of our own, Amal Chavan, to talk more about this. So let's go ahead and bring you in here. Welcome to the show, Amal.
Hey,
Hello,
Amal.
everyone. How are you guys?
How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. You in UK or in Sweden?
In UK.
Figured you were.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. So, hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. So this guy here is one of the most experienced digital manufacturing consultants that I know. You'll remind me of how many years it is in a second, but after several years of trying to find the right time for he and I to work together, finally an opportunity came along, which is with one of the most prominent high-tech organizations today in the world. You are here to tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing down there, Amal.
Yeah. So I'm Amol Chavan. I work as a digital manufacturing engineer consultant for more than 10 years now. So I'm working as a solution architect for Delmia in high-tech industry right now. So after in the 10 years, I have worked with like many industries, automobile, aerospace, and high-tech industries. So each industry comes with its own challenges, and same with high-tech, because it did not had a very good digital manufacturing invested in the past. But with the help of the Delmia, we can connect our CAD to the shop floor experience.
Got it. So, I mean, how else is Delmia digital manufacturing helping specifically the high-tech industry?
There are lots of challenges in the high-tech industry. The CAD changes happen more frequently, and manufacturer has to adapt to it very fast. So Delmia comes into picture there. It lets them help into the changes in virtually. You can test it, and then we send this plan to the shop floor. You can find any bottlenecks are happening. You can define the plant layouts, and you can then test your factory floor simulation. Yeah.
Yep. So in the high-tech industry, I think what we've seen over the years is an ever-shortening product life cycle.
Yeah.
How does digital manufacturing actually help to shorten up that product life cycle?
Yeah, that's what we call as short-term changes. Like in the high tech, if I take some examples, like they happens like in every week, there are changes in the products. They're happening, and
Yeah.
if it is not Delmia digital manufacturing in between CAD and shop floor, it will be a big task for the changes happening on the shop floor.
Yep.
So Delmia will come into picture there, and it helps the manufacturing engineers.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we've got a situation right now where a couple of customers have pre-sold some very cool product
Mm-hmm.
to large customers.
Mm-hmm.
Their job now within the next 18, 20 months is to build the factories and to deliver those products.
Mm-hmm.
How does digital manufacturing, Delmia DM, help that customer build that plant, get that plant operational, and to deliver that product?
Delmia Digital has some capabilities, like most of the capabilities to build the plant, define the layout in the plant, and then define all the machines, including robots and industrial machines. If you take high tech, you have lots of printing board assemblies. You need lots of machines there. So you can define these machines. You can run the flow in the entire factory with the help of some like factory flow simulations, and you can find if there are any bottlenecks, and you can solve all the problems virtually before going into the production.
Cheaper, faster, etc.
Yeah. That's one of the big benefit of having Delmia digital manufacturing.
Great.
And connection with CAD and MES in the same platform. Yeah, it's a game changer.
So you're connecting up to MES, putting the MBOM up to ERP, etc.
Yes.
So very good. Great. We got a question for you, Ramal. I hope you're ready. From RJ, he says, how do you see Dassault Systèmes digital manufacturing, so Delmia twin solution, compared to PTC ThingWorx? Are they still going? Anyway, do you feel Dassault Delmia has to up their game in this area? Different solutions. Interesting question.
Yeah, I think you have answered this question just before me with the partnership with IBM for the IoT. Yeah.
Good point.
I think Dassault is investing very highly on this virtual team capabilities now.
So the IBM collaboration starts to bring through the kind of ThingWorx, MindSphere kind of competitor for IoT platform. Yeah, interesting. I mean, certainly I think RJ, Delmia has been the intelligence platform to use the data, which was always perceived as a little commoditized, to optimize manufacturing and cascade it back into product lifecycle. So interesting. Good.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on, telling us a bit about manufacturing, what's happening, and of course, we'll, as tends to be the case, we'll have to bring up some new future shows, really diving in more into the specifics here. So thanks for your time this morning.
Amal, great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And yeah, we talked a little bit about how Andrew has scoured the internet, so he made me do it too. But we have another actually interesting news item that came up with what's happening with risk and managing disruption inside of a PLM-enabled digital value chain, specifically in the fashion industry. because with what's happened as a result somewhat of the pandemic and the supply chain structures not being able to overcome that disruption, there have been problems that have come up in the fashion textile industry where basically since like the early 1980s, most of the brands have been chasing low-cost production around the globe, which has worked, but also caused some challenges, islands of information, secrecy of costing, multiple versions of products cost, poor performance, and inefficiencies. And because of that, we're actually seeing a new paradigm based on digital connectivity starting to come into the supply chain. And seeing the shift away from large volume to lower volume, less complex styles, and with the demands related to sustainability all coming into this. So it's really interesting watching leading brands rethinking what's happening with the supply chain and having to figure out how to bring in better technology, better planning, PLM solutions, and all of that stuff just into these cycles. So it's neat watching those changes happen in the world in areas that, especially when as I said, when I first started in this whole field, not even thinking how these things would impact areas outside of engineering. And speaking of changes that are happening and news and the ways things are shifting, we've got a really cool partnership to talk about.
We sure do. So over the last few months and under the strong recommendation of our friends at Dassault Systèmes, we wanted to complete our total manufacturing offering. So today we are joined by our XDI CEO and founder, Sufjan Elamili, and CEO of The Logic Factory, Marjolein Terveltius. I gave it a good go. Apologies, Marjolein. I hope I got pretty close to it, but let's welcome both of them on the show.
Yeah, welcome to the stream.
You bet.
Now, how did Andrew do with the name?
He did well. He did well.
Yeah, she's going to say as well as everybody else who gets it wrong.
It doesn't matter.
There
I
you go.
listen to anything.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. Nice to see you, Marjolein. Sufjan, good to see you.
Hello. Good to see you.
You bet.
So, Sufjan, can you tell us what is this partnership all about?
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you for having us. I mean, it's nice to be back on the show. First show of 2023. So pretty excited about that. Yeah, going back to the TLF, the Logic Factory partnership, I think Andrew alluded to it when he introduced the subject. It's really about completing our offering in terms of manufacturing solutions. So XDI is a digital engineering, but also a smart manufacturing solutions provider. And we've been working quite a bit in the areas of digital twin, manufacturing, taking an E-bomb to an M-bomb, doing a manufacturing plan and getting it into the shop floor and executing that plan through an MES or MOM. And now, this is really to complete that offering in terms of managing our value chains. So customers want to manage their value chains. They want to manage their logistics, plan out their globally, diverse workforce. They want to manage production. So really, this is a very unique opportunity for us to be in partnership with TLF, a leader in logistics planning using Quintac, doing a number of implementations, and we're looking forward to doing some very cool projects together.
Marjolein, you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, so maybe just a very brief introduction, because I realize that most in this stream will have never heard about the Logic Factory. So we have been active in the supply chain planning and optimization consultancy services space now for about 15 years, and we are really specialized in Delmia Quintac. So it's one of the Dassault Systèmes products, and we have highly trained certified consultants, and with that, our customers actually have a one-stop shop for all supply chain planning and optimization advice, implementation, and support services. Now, if you look at that and also look at now why we're here together with Sufjan and you guys from XDI, is I'll take an example of one of our long-term customers, and they're in the food manufacturing space. And this is where the Delmia Quintac solution provides them with the capability to streamline their recipe and materials requirements. So they can streamline that into one planning system, which in turn allows them to produce their products at the lowest possible cost. but that's where we stop, right? And Soufiane was just saying it. There's also the shop floor. There's the manufacturing execution systems. There's the stuff that our previous speaker was referring to on the virtual twin. Building the factories. Our TLF customer also needs those things. So when we now, with this partnership with XDI, we can actually jointly offer that to our customers, and that just excites the hell out of me. Excuse me.
Got it. So thanks for that, Marilyn. Let's take that forward now. Let's project it to what does that partnership look like? Maybe what is that ideal customer situation where we can really kind of come together for the future?
Yeah, so I do have a dream about that, and that is that we do have that joint customer that you're mentioning, Andrew, specifically in the CPG market, where we have together basically implemented the full stack of DS solutions. So what we do there is we truly deliver integrated value to this customer. So you have to imagine it being the 3DS platform as the basis for collaboration, as that product excels in. We then do the long-term and short-term planning of their supply chain. We do that with Delmia Quintic, but also the improvement of the manufacturing execution by using Apriso and digital manufacturing. And I think looking at the strengths and qualities of the Dassault Systèmes products, being able to provide this fully integrated solution to our customers, that's the unique proposition that comes from our collaboration.
I can just see the passion that you have when talking about that, and that's exciting to see that brought into this. And just to carry on with that, Soufiane, what would you say are the typical customer challenges that XDI has experienced that with this collaboration with the Logic Factory are now covered?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go back to the pillars I think I've talked about earlier, which is the first one is better planning and optimization of very complex value networks, right? Our customers are dealing with very complex business environments. They have internal resources, they have external resources, they have logistics that they have to manage. So really, production value networks, as they get more complex, customers are needing more and more sophisticated planning platforms like Delmia Quintic, where they could do these types of things. We've also got very intricate logistics operations, and we've seen that a little bit in COVID, and it's getting better, but I think there's some big challenges there, right? So from first mile to last mile to anything in between, you could do your planning as a customer. So that's also very important. Workforce, right? So we've got geographically diverse workforces now all over the world. We've got factories, we've got companies that build factories in different continents and expect all of these things to run in harmony. So there is need again for just much more sophisticated planning, right? So from a manufacturing planning perspective. And then finally, all of your sales and operations planning. So forecasting your supply, forecasting your demand. So making sure that this information is being pulled from different architectures within your company, whether it's a sales system or finance system or manufacturing system. So it gets very complicated. That's why it takes a village, and that's why we're very excited about the TLF, partnership, because now as a group we can provide, as was mentioned previously, more integrated solutions, more depth, more experience. We all bring our strengths to the table for the benefit of our joint customers. So TLF customers can benefit from our MES and digital manufacturing expertise, and vice versa. We benefit, and our XDI customers benefit from the experience that TLF team brings. So very exciting, and looking again forward to doing some very cool projects to tackle some big problems and bring some sophisticated solutions.
Just Marilyn, Soufiane mentioned data on 2 or 3 occasions. Volumes of data, complexities of data. What are your thoughts around that and how we kind of bring that together?
Yeah, so it's also one of the things that we see as something that we've been struggling with in the past, right? Because of course supply chain planning systems use a lot of data, but it's even more connected to other systems as well. So what we see as one of the biggest challenges is actually the flow of data back and forth from the shop floor. So planning in and execution out. And traditionally, what we had to do was to basically say for our projects or for our sales cycles that these points were out of scope. Now, with the partnership with XDI, we actually have a partner who is able to address this with us, and we have opportunities to pitch those full solutions instead of having those out of scope discussions. Yeah. So that makes it rather exciting too. It also links back to the artificial intelligence question that was posed before, because that is something that the Delmia Quintic products or solutions, such as in the S&OP process, demand planner or macro planner, they do extensively use that, because these, of course, are data heavy products. And why do you want a human to have to analyze all your data and your history, and then from there make the right settings when you actually have software that can do this? And the Delmia Quintic suite is really very suitable for that. You bet.
I think that's what kind of hits you immediately when you start to look at the solutions you guys bring to the table. It's highly intelligent, dealing with extremely complex planning solutions. It's quite fascinating to even start to dip your toe in the water there. It's been exhilarating for us to start getting involved in what you're doing. So thank you for that. Thanks both. Excited to get the show on the road. Really am. We actually got a little time a few days ago with your colleague, Marilyn, Roel van den Broek, talking about really what we talked about here, but really about how the rubber hits the road together. So I think we got a little shot of what we went through with him, Q&A. So I'll hand over to you, Brian.
Yeah, I'll just cue it up. We had a great time talking with him earlier. So here's the pre-recorded session we had from that one.
You got it. Thanks, both.
Fantastic time talking about a really cool partnership. So let's just dive in and really start talking about what's happening here. So why is there a partnership between XDI and TLF?
Yeah, thank you very much, Brian, for the question. And first of all, Andrew, Brian, thanks for having me in this beautiful live event.
I'm not sure about beautiful.
Come on, look at all the people over here. They're all beautiful people. Come on, Andrew, a bit more positive.
We're working on the beautiful, but present company accepted.
Okay. No, that's good. Brian, so it's of course a great pleasure to be potentially the first Dutchman that is part of your show. So now what is going to make the partnership between XDI and the Logic Factory something unique? And first of all, and that's I think the firm belief that both the XDI and TLF have, is that 1 + 1 actually is 3. So we were already searching so often for a partner that could help us out when we were engaging puzzles into the shop floor optimization, into way more manufacturing type of related puzzles. And I know that you guys were looking for, man, now we have another customer with planning problems. Come on, we know where we're going to find them. So with these two things together, to be honest, 1 + 1 really makes 3 in this case, guys.
You know, Roel, I've got to say, when we were put together by Dassault Systèmes, which, big thanks DS for putting those all together. It was put together under the very logical argument that we complemented each other with our solutions. I think there's something that's been really standing out for me above that, which is the cultural link up. The first meeting we all had together as teams, that we just had the same culture. And I love that. I really appreciated that. That determination to actually deliver a return on investment, just not implement software and say, look, you look better and prettier now. But the reality is that it actually makes a business impact. And that we saw in that very, very first meeting. I don't know if you had the same feeling anyways.
Yeah, it's exactly, Andrew and Brian. It's the same level of pragmatism that we actually, from our standard culture, is, and that we really want to push forward to our customers. The moment that we started talking to each other, I saw the same pragmatism on your side. The focus on long-term value and on long-term relationship with your customers, which is almost at every single slide and every single presentation that we go for. Yeah, those things that made it click immediately. And that was also combined by the fact that let's be realistic. Let's also make sure that we actually start doing something. And then when we start doing something, we can actually build this relation before we go into, I don't know, paperwork, cadences. No, let's just start working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the passion for industry, and I know we're going to talk about specific verticals in a second, but just that real energy and love of what you guys do. And it's nice to know that we'll bring you to meet our customers and vice versa, and that they're not going to be bored ever. They're going to be enthused, exhilarated by kind of the passion that you've got for the solutions that you bring to the table. That's been, really welcoming to see.
Yeah, no, that's indeed. So it's this passion that made actually us start this company 15 years ago. We are in the end still those kids that like to solve complex planning puzzles, and this passion to get it solved and to get it done. When we look with you and we look at the type of things that you do, it's like it's a different angle, but it's the same passion, and that makes collaboration in a very easy and natural way.
With the partnership, what are the industry targets that you are targeting?
Yeah, so the first industry to target together to target together is the CPGR market, and there's many reasons for this. It's a booming market. It's something where the Logic Factory has already a track record in. It's something where Dassault Systèmes has a big focus on to go to, and I know also this is from your side, guys, and a market where you are eyeing on to start exploring and to start winning. So that's for us the first market, and for us it's all about the food market. It's about retailers. It's about retail logistics, but it's also encompassing health. It's also encompassing the fashion world, because there's a lot of references and business going on in these kind of industries. So it's a big market, and you need to so it's consumer packaged goods and retail. But let's be honest, it's a broad market with a large addressable and with a lot of companies also in it.
And so you said CPGR was one of the main targets for the industry. What was the next one you're going to go into?
And that is manufacturing. So from a manufacturing perspective, we know the track record of XDI in this market, and we believe there is a enormous amount of planning puzzles to be solved in this world, which we really love to encounter together with you and take a deep dive in it.
I'm really getting the impression that you enjoy puzzles. That's really cool. What is your understanding, and what do you do with the Quintex solution?
Yeah. So we target, for example, in the industry. Let me give a few examples about the Delmia Quintic. Yeah. So first of all, one of our customers is a tremendously large food company, and they are struggling with the question how to actually procure as cheap as possible all the goods and the recipes that we need to do, while maintaining the quality every day, every hour, every minute. And this kind of balancing, about your recipes, and to make sure that every day, every week, every minute, that's something that a human brain cannot do at some point. And that's where Delmia Quintic comes in. Yeah, it's where the optimization kicks in.
Yeah. So that seems like a good solution, but we also know that a lot of things are the opposite of solutions, where headaches happen to pop into place. So what are some of the more common headaches that you come across and expect to come across?
Yeah, a few things. It's actually a very good question. Perhaps there are actually three things that I would like to mention in this, based on headaches. And the first one seems a little bit odd, as we are all implementation and technology implementation partners and are working with Dassault. But the first headache is that it's actually not only about the technology. If you want to, let's say, implement a complex solution in a large organization, it's not technology that actually is going to make the difference. It's the change management. It's the commitment from senior management. It's the training and the education of the users. It's making sure that the solution actually is fit to the puzzle, and actually will drive value and return on investment. We're not here in the world to actually just make money out of customers. No, we're here committed to help them and to get, let's say, the best out of this. And the notion that it's all about technology, that's often, and it sounds silly, the first headache that we need to tackle. The second one that we encounter a lot from our experience at the Logic Factory, but nonetheless exactly the same what you probably see is data. Yeah. If the data is not there, or if it's not of the right quality, yeah, then let's be honest. Then we go to the excuse le mot, crap in, crap out type of solutions, and that's often a difficult situation. And if I would have gotten £1 or $1 every time that a CIO would have said my data is perfect, then I would not be here in this interview, but we would do it, let's say, on the Bahamas together, right? Because it may be perfect from an ERP perspective, but is it then also working yet from a planning perspective? Is it working for a shop floor perspective? Those views on the world are differently than from an ERP perspective. So data is a critical factor and a headache that needs to be resolved. And the third one is all about the optimizer. So, for example, the most powerful thing that we see in Delmia Quintic is the optimization. And the optimization is what we call the moneymaker. It's the moneymaker for the customer. It's where, this is of course one of the key reasons why the technology is required. But the moneymaker can be started too soon. And you as an organization have not yet a clue what optimization will actually mean for you, or what are actually the goals and what are the KPIs. How do you actually measure success? So deploying the moneymaker too soon actually is also a headache. So you need to balance that. And those are, let's say, three ingredients that we as a Logic Factory have experienced, and we know how to deal with that. That's why our partners love us. And I hope that we can do these kind of things more and more together.
So I'm not sure about you, Andrew, but what I got from that is there's basically all those three important, very logical factors are we want to make sure to get the buy-in from everybody involved to really optimize our trip to the Bahamas.
That's all I heard too, Brian. Isn't that weird?
Bahamas is the key word for that one.
Sorry, I couldn't resist when I put all this together.
Well, it's just time and time again, isn't it? It's we've got the best tech solutions out there. We can map your processes, but more importantly, we got to get the people to start using them and adopting them. That is the only way to deliver the return to the enterprise. Absolutely. You're right. Data. We're definitely not lacking data. It's how you break it up, how you make sure the quality is inbound, so that you can actually bring some intelligent solutions back to them. Very, very relevant. So, good stuff. So what do you think we can expect in the outside world, for the outside world in the future as we come together? What's your views?
Yeah, my view is the following. So first of all, we're going to get, let's say, some noise generated today and in the coming weeks with press releases, this event and quite some outings into the market that we're going to do. In parallel, our teams are already training each other, so we get to know the great things about Priso and direct manufacturing. And we are actually embarking you on the path on Delmia Quintic and macro planners and complete planners and schedulers and, well, the great fun that it is over there. So that's the training curve. Yep. With this training curve, it's about going outside together. Yeah, our customer bases. How can we provide them with information from your side? What are, let's say, the things that we can position over there? It's about positioning and messaging with your team to let them know the message around Delmia Quintic and target that. And do joint marketing and go out as soon as possible in the world as XDI and the Logic Factory and get some results done together. Yeah.
I'm really excited about, in product lifecycle and smart manufacturing, we talk a lot about the digital thread, and I'm excited to extend that right the way out into the supply chain, into the planning area as well. I mean, we spend hours upon hours talking about BOM and BOM management and connecting it up right the way through the work instruction into the MES. I can't wait to really just bring that now in terms of materials planning, people planning into that whole thing. So it'd be great to see that all come together as one solution over time. Hopefully we, TLF XDI, can do that together.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. There's a lot of excitement in this topic to nail this design, manufacturing, supply chain together part. It's let's make it happen. We're looking forward to it, guys.
There you go.
Yeah, that was a fun interview. You could definitely see from everybody we just talked to, what Roel, Marilyn, everybody. There's A lot of
Wheel 'em
excitement and
out.
passion.
Balls of passion. They love
yeah.
what they do, and they've been doing it for years. And the energy is just really infectious. I've got to say, great to work with them. While we have been listening to Roel a little over those minutes, we've also had, I think we've got a forthcoming guest coming in. Abhinash has been popping some good things into the chat. First up, he said, it's interesting to hear Delmia Quintic macro planner supply chain management solution integrated with AI. I think basically what he's asking a very good question here. And this is one, Abhinash, we're going to take on probably the next show, if not the one after. So we're going to let you know about that. Roel and team and his passionate team will be here to start delving into that. It is an amazing, amazing tool. I had the great pleasure of going over to Den Bosch a few years ago as that Quintic acquisition was being made and looking at what it's all about. It's a very bright solution. He threw a couple of other things into the chat as well, Brian. I think Abhinash was saying integrated machine learning can help customers develop what Dassault System is calling the self-learning supply chain, etc. Absolutely. So lots of these things we need to get into. AI is the macro driver for the future.
Looks like there's, for those who are watching on LinkedIn, looks like there's a comment with a link posted also to more about the self-learning supply chain. So feel free to take a look at that too. Yeah, exciting stuff, a lot to cover in future episodes. And to kind of bring us to the end of this episode, we're going to dive into the MBSE section of the show. But first, we can look back at the Consumer Electronics Show, a week ago, and do you have a snapshot, Andrew, of what went on and what was revealed there?
Yeah, real whistle-stop tour, if I may, quickly. So the CES, the Consumer Electronics Shows, has increasingly become a showcase for digital health developers, investors, and buyers. The conference this year had more than 100,000 attendees, took place in Vegas. What goes on stays there. From January 5 to January 8, 2023, it took place. There were 4 main takeaways that we kind of took from that event. First up was emerging companies will utilize business to consumers as a training ground for B2B pivoting. So a number of companies shared their strategic blueprints for 2023. They actually echoed a similar ambition to eventually market their products to businesses rather than consumers. Nearly all of them admitted they must first show value and interest with consumers before pitching to businesses. The majority of entrepreneurs at the CES said their ultimate goal was to show value to large-scale payer organizations. So B2C training ground, B2B future, big picture stuff. Second up, age tech could be at a massive inflection point, if that's not a contradiction in terms. AARP and its age tech collaboration of companies had a significant presence on the floor at CES. The collaboration featured 74 early stage companies, 112 other participant types, from VCs to business service firms, etc., all seeking to improve access to care for seniors. The initiative aims to highlight the growing market demand for digital health technologies serving older populations. There's this massive wave coming through, and basically, the healthcare services are trying to get more tech in the hands of people who probably have no understanding of it, with a few exceptions, I got to say, and to really kind of be able to monitor, recommend, etc. in real time. Big area. Third up was raising money is difficult but necessary for many companies. So this is interesting. So we've been through the last few years, lots of money in the system, and somebody has an idea and they think they can raise money, and that's a success, to a slight tightening of the belt. So there will be no shortage of companies to raise money in 2023. Well, that's good news for investors hoping to capitalize on broader economic factors. Founders and startup executives are anticipating a more challenging environment than they had last year. There is still a lot of money left in the pot. The big trends we're hearing is, however, it's a focus on ROI, so return on investment. Makes sense to me, because at the end of the day, if economies are getting a little uncertain about what's going on, it's all about ROI. So nearly everyone agreed it is increasingly important to produce results, prove results when you seek funding. New companies, those founded since the market correction, might be better equipped for quick growth because they're generally leaner than more established peers, experts were saying. And lastly, number 4, narrow approvals for medical devices likely to continue. So upshot of this really is, while outliers exist, most companies are producing or boasting, I should say, Food and Drug Administration approved technologies are actually seeking narrow net regulatory approval for specific components of their devices. We know it's a massive, long process to go through. What they're trying to do now is get little pieces of it to get through FDA to really speed up time to market. So to woo consumers and differentiate in an increasingly crowded wearables market, many companies are actually enduring the regulatory approval process strategically for specific portions or sensors of their devices to get them through much quicker. Whew. There you go. That's the 4. Done.
Yeah,
Out of breath
good.
now.
Well, since you're out of breath, I'll bring us into the MBSE section, where we get to actually dive into another guest that we've talked to briefly before together on a previous show.
Yep.
But our very own Mark Karamanougian, who is now the XD Innovation VP of Consulting and Services for North America. He's fascinating to talk to if you get to sit down over a nice coffee or beer, but he's got some really cool history with working with the U.S. Air Force fighter jets with Top Gun, and being able to help develop a space telescope. I'm sure some of you have heard of. Yeah,
Mark Karamanougian, Top Gun.
He's had some exposure to the Top Gun Naval Academy.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
This is good. You never told me that.
You just need to spend more time with him. He's also been able to work on I'm sure some people may have heard of the James Webb Space Telescope, so that's kind of a cool thing to talk about too. But he's got some cool experience with all of this, as well as diving into the electrical vehicles. So with all that being said, let's just bring Mark onto the show. So welcome, Mark.
You bet.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Brian.
Hey,
good to be on the show again. Good to see
Mark.
you.
Sorry, it couldn't be Gothenburg this time around for you, because that's the last time we saw you, I think.
Yeah, we did a live show in Gothenburg at the MBSE symposium, and that
was cool.
Dassault Systems hosted out there, and
you live doing your thing. It was great. It was really good.
Yep.
Good.
Well, Mark, thanks for.
Just one thing to clarify, though, I didn't work with Top Gun as an adult.
That was a kid. Okay.
It was an environment that I was exposed to through my dad. My dad, a lifetime career around fighter jets, and one of his last assignments was in Fallon, Nevada, where Top Gun relocated from Coronado Island in San Diego.
Yeah.
So I did have the pleasure of witnessing air-to-air combat exercises in the vast desert land of Nevada. So really cool.
I was just trying to make you look cooler than you were. Sorry about that.
Yeah. But being around fighter jets, that heavy duty machinery, just the power of propulsion really just inspired me to pursue the field of engineering and design and product development, and here we are.
Well, we know, and we've talked about this before on previous episodes, that MBSE is a buzzword that everybody is saying, that we're hearing all the time. But there's still uncertainty going on with how this is getting integrated and everything, and how MBSE is going to affect our world. So how do you see MBSE coming into, all the areas that you're taking a look at?
MBSE I see as the next stage of the evolution process of this digital thread, source of truth, to keep large organizations with many different domains and disciplines aligned on the same target and the same goals to achieve. I see MBSE being in 15 years where MBD is today. 15, 20 years ago, model-based definition, that practice was just being deployed into industry with newer technologies. But back then, it was a buzzword as well. But now it's prevalent in industry, especially aerospace and defense, transportation and mobility, where 3D CAD models have embedded in it specifications, requirements, geometric dimensioning and tolerances, finite tolerancing and annotations. Everything is embedded in that 3D model, including material properties. So the next evolution is connecting 3D CAD all the way down to the component level, to the very top level product with performance and functional requirements. What I see in the electric vehicle space is, for a long time and traditionally, we had this dynamic mechanical vessel, and it's now recently been introduced to electronics, electrical architecture, and software that brings the intelligence to these potential self-driving vehicles. And MBSE, I see, is the tool to be that bridge to bring all those disciplines together.
Got it. So you touched EV there. How do you see MBSE bringing value to the EV sector that you and I are pretty passionate about, love working in that, etc.? What do you see it bringing there?
I see, in the past, a lot of startups start off really strong. They come out of the gates really quickly, but they encounter a lot of turbulence or headwinds, a couple of years down the road when they start to deploy small volume manufacturing samples. And a lot of these problems that come up are because they weren't detected earlier on, because of poor communication, poor requirements, traceability, and flow down to the component level. So I see MBSE adding an enormous amount of value to identify and to align every one of those domains that are shown up there on the screen with each other.
Right.
Wow. So you're seeing right now we've got everybody thinking, hey, we want to bring this in and we see some benefits, but in a decade or less, you're going to see a lot of this is just everywhere. MBSE is going to be something that most companies have adopted and have benefited a lot from.
Right. I liked what Roel said in that previous segment where it needs to start from the investor executive leadership levels to drive that transformation, to adopt it. Start small, start with small samples and, prove out that theory and then scale up from there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Makes sense.
I think there's so much that we can dive into this conversation, into what's happening in this world with MBSE in EV and outside of EV, that we're definitely going to fill some portion of this year up with some more in-depth talks about MBSE for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
And the James Webb Telescope. We need to talk about the James Webb Telescope as well.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
I believe somebody might have a presentation about that.
I think so.
Yep.
Good. Hey, Mark, good to see you.
All
thanks
right,
for,
cool.
thanks
Good
for
to see you
dropping
guys
by.
too.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mark. That awkward moment when you tell someone bye and then everybody just waves and walks the same direction. That's what just happened when I didn't get him removed in time.
Gotcha. All righty. So let's keep going with MBSE. Who's next?
Yeah. So now we're going to do I guess the both sides of the Atlantic thing that we promised earlier, where we're going to talk to we're going to go in to talk to Abel about what's happening with MBSE and CATIA Magic, and we're also going to bring in Matt Prentice and have a great discussion here. So I guess I'll give a brief introduction to Abel and say that he's been one of our MBSE consultants with a background in computer engineering. He's worked for a few years with test engineering in Taiwan's F-16 aircraft survivability equipment, and also for Georgia Tech Research Institute, which I thought was cool because a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I had an internship at GTRI. But he's also helped with the in-flight house data for the analytic tools, and from there moved into the realm of MBSE to work on reference architecture and next-gen avionics systems, with some really cool stuff happening there. So excited to talk to him. And you want to give us a quick intro to Matt?
Matt Prentice, CATIA Magic Architect, MBSE Architect. He's got two main focuses in his role. It's helping clients with implementing MBSE into their business, ensuring that MBSE is connected into their wider engineering and business systems. So he comes with, a good business, manufacturing, product lifecycle background, which is, really beneficial these days of actually connecting the whole thing up. He's over 20 years of experience in manufacturing design and systems engineering, with the last 10 or so working on engineering and business transformations with a focus on the MBSE toolset and processes. Matt Prentice, Albo Daniel, welcome. Bring them aboard.
Welcome to the show.
Hello.
There you go, guys.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Good evening, Matt, and good morning, Abel.
Yeah, it's definitely
good
evening
evening,
here
good
now.
morning.
It's dark.
It's been dark down here for about 2 hours, it feels like.
It looks very green on your background, actually.
Yeah, you bet. The canal system over here. That's another conversation. There we go. So let's jump right in there with you both. How do you currently use MBSE? Abel, let's take you first. How do you currently use MBSE?
Right. Yeah. So how I currently use MBSE is mainly around that buzzword of reference architectures. If you say that MBSE is a buzzword within that's being passed around in engineering industries, reference architectures is really the buzzword that's within the MBSE community that I see popping up a lot, especially in the DoD space. And to give a bit context of what that is, when I say reference architecture, you're pretty much building this authoritative source of information, this architectural baseline for vendors and developers to take that baseline and then develop any system architecture solutions for, say, their customers or stakeholders. So if we're looking at it from like an aerospace perspective, we're talking, identifying the critical elements that apply to, say, aircraft, and creating the baseline requirements that it takes to design that architecture that eventually moves from saying reference architecture down to an objective architecture once you've identified your purpose of your system, and then identifying how the needs take that purpose down to a system specification that vendors then go into design for. And that's mainly the popularity between reference architecture, is it provides that a way to provide rapid acquisition and rapid development of systems, because it provides that baseline rather than having to reiterate every single time you moving towards developing a system.
Absolutely.
Also
scalability, replicability. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you move down to, when you're talking that purpose that moves into an objective architecture, it defines that way to create that product line of systems if there's commonalities between your systems, so that if there's generalities between them, and when you have to specialize down to system architecture, if there's differences between one or the others, there's still defined product line within that objective architecture.
So we come about from this kind of collaborative engineering, collaborative manufacturing world. 3D experience. How are you getting on connecting up CATIA Magic, MBSE up into the 3D experience platform? I know it's something you've been working on.
Right. Yeah. So this almost kind of ties in with what I'm talking about when I talk reference architectures, is that when you build this architecture, there's this source of needing to provide some sort of traceability, as well as some sort of digital continuity between taking your architecture and applying it to other applications within, say, just the 3D experience space. So when you're talking about some applications in terms of requirements management, to sync your requirements between your model and the application and the requirements management application in 3DX, or if you're saying the model definition application or process composers to simulate models within the 3DX experience, that provides integrating CATIA Magic into that space provides that way of, for instance, saying from model definition to requirements management, it can provide inputs to your model in terms of the components that make up your architecture, as well as the requirements that sync to your architecture and sync with the requirements management, as well as other elements of 3DX experience. If we're talking, say, the process composer for simulation of your model, as well as other applications. And this applies pretty much throughout, say, the Anovia, CATIA, and Simula. I always pronounce this incorrectly.
Simula.
Space and a 3DX experience. But there's a wide range of applicability between all these applications that I see between taking architectures in an MBSE environment and applying it throughout 3DX.
Wow. Well, That's great, Abel. Thanks for the diving into some of those challenges, which brings us to the next question for Matt is, what challenges are you facing with MBSE?
Hi, Brian. 3 things in the main, probably. So I think the first one, convincing people of the need and benefit of MBSE. So obviously when an organisation comes to implement it, but that doesn't mean all the stakeholders are convinced. I'd also say connecting MBSE into the wider sort of organisation, and also the approach to be taken to implement MBSE. So probably just touching on the need and benefit a little bit first. It's not all complicated why systems engineering done in an MBSE method is necessary. It's simple. Things go wrong in life. Systems fail. Projects do not meet the need of the customer and stakeholders. We lead an interconnected life these days. Advances in technology, products are more complicated. They're nested within a wider ecosystem or systems of systems. MBSE is a really good approach to deal with this complexity and make sure we just get enough complexity to meet the needs of the system. What we don't want to do is introduce unnecessary complexity. So MBSE, helps with that, and it also aids the understanding and communication of what the system will do. A model allows many views to be created to help understand the problem and also the suggested solution.
Got it. So Matt, we come across a number of customers interested. It's buzzing around a lot in North America because we've got a lot of kind of mandatory defense space ecosystem push downs. A lot of the customers we're hearing is kind of give us the training course and we're good to go. We got it. We can take it from here. Do you see that a lot? What are your thoughts around that kind of approach to it?
Yeah, so implementing it's more of selecting a tool set and getting the training course, so your implementation needs to be planned, you understand why are you doing it, what do you want to do with it. And starting off with a correct approach really is key. So, how will you go about it? You need to create a framework and then a method. The starting point, I'd probably start with a framework, which would give you, the domain-specific language and the viewpoints of that system to be looked at. And then the method would give you the process to use on that framework. So, for a company starting off, instead of doing all this yourself, there's some, great predefined high-level methodology. One I'd recommend is the CATIA Magic Grid. It doesn't have to be just defense, like you mentioned. It can be industry agnostic. It was created by Dassault, by some of the leading experts within Dassault, based on implementations at customers. And it's also aligned with the technical processes from ISO 15288, the systems life cycle processes.
Yep.
So, the Magic Grid is something I would really recommend. I don't know if we got the graphic to show of a Magic Grid.
We got that, Brian?
We did.
Okay. So
I'll just carry
you can start drawing.
Yeah, I ran out of monitors over here on the backside, so
it's okay. I'll carry on. But the Magic Grid on the left hand side, it has the domains. Problem domain and solution domain. The problem domain split further into the black box and white box levels of abstraction. Across the top, we've got the 4 pillars of MBSE. So that's requirement, structure, behavior, parameters. So this gives you a 12-box grid basically, and within each of the boxes, it gives you some suggested artifacts. For what should be there. So, for example, the black box and requirements intersection shows you the stakeholder needs. The white box and behavior intersection shows an activity diagram, I think, and it describes the functional analysis of the system. So, I'd really recommend that. I've seen a couple of implementations that have started using this, and I think it really helps people because it's a great starting point.
Yeah.
And I'd highly recommend there's a companion that goes along with a Magic Grid as well, called the Magic Grid Book of Knowledge. It takes you through a step-by-step guide of using the Magic Grid within CATIA Magic. I think it's based on a vehicle climate control system. As I say, I'd highly recommend it to even all MBSE users, but especially the CATIA Magic users.
Yeah. Good. All righty. So,
well, say I pick up. There we go. So yeah, thanks for talking about those and with the delayed magic grid graphic and working with that. So we have some of this challenge. Abel, what challenges do you have to add to this list?
Yeah, so I've had about 3 challenges that I think I've identified working in the MBSE space. That I think is great learning lessons, not only if you want to implement MBSE in your organization, but just if you're already implementing. But mainly the main 3 are: 1, it's very important and it's very challenging to be able to communicate the value and purpose of your model to your stakeholders. 2, properly communicating the story of your model. And 3, defining and enforcing a methodology for your business. So when I talk communicating the value and purpose, I say that's a challenge only because MBSE is a budding space in many sectors, and there's not much knowledge on it, and it's difficult to interpret and understand models for many customers. It's a bit difficult for them to really understand the value behind a lot of the diagrams and a lot of the elements within a model and how that traceability really assists them in their PLM processes. So being able to communicate that is quite challenging, but a lot of the ways around it are kind of just being able to provide walkthroughs with your customer, model walkthroughs, be able to provide that justification, verbally with them as you step them through the model. Another one is workshops. As you get to the point where a model is getting closer to delivery and it's actually almost to the point of being usable, workshops are great for being able to show your a customer how they can actually use the model in their actual design process. And the third one is being incremental deliveries. It's always great to provide incremental deliveries to the customer so that they have pretty much the build up to how they actually got the delivery of the model, so that it's not too much of a hose of water down their mouth when they see a giant model.
Yeah.
It's a bit easier to understand. So the second part for communicating the story of your model. So that's also something that ties into the first point of communicating that value and purpose, and then doing those incremental deliveries, is that it's very important with each delivery you provide some sort of almost a page in the model. I like to use a cover page that pretty much shows justification for each delivery about what has changed and why it has changed, and kind of how you incorporated that customer feedback and your own thought processes into how that you developed your model. It really helps not only the customer, but it also helps even future users and vendors and developers of that model really understand how to use the model, and not also what it took to actually develop that model. It makes it a lot easier when you get to the design aspect of creating the system after you develop that architecture. And lastly, defining and enforcing that methodology is vastly important, I think, at the start of incorporating MBSE into your company, because almost think of your modeling methodology almost like a style guide in terms of the way when you create documentation. A model methodology is going to help your company provide that consistency when it's developing your model to sustaining your model after delivery, so that they understand the nomenclature to include the model, the process to take that model through certain views and viewpoints as you architect the model for your customer, and so on. But those 3 challenges I think are vastly important, and they're not. It's interesting because they don't really tie into actually working in the model. It's more of how you're actually going to. It's almost foreseeing how you're going to perform, create your model before you actually get to the point of actually making your model. So it's not so much about doing the modeling. That's the hard part about MBSE. It's the actual system engineering aspect. A lot of that I heard is when you hear model-based system engineering, remember that there's a split between saying model-based and system engineering. There's a little line in between. The first part you can learn, but the second part is always something that's going to trip you up when you're working with customers. So
good tips, good advice. Talking of which, hey, Matt, what do you think? What would be some of your tips and tricks for people using CATIA Magic?
Good question. I think two spring to mind. Different ends of a scale probably, but the first one would be to use the traceability between requirements and the model elements. This is, it's really important to me to do it. So I would recommend using the 4 different types of requirement traceability matrix. They're not SysML diagrams, so sometimes we do get overlooked, with a great significance because we let you display relationships not available on the SysML diagram types. The 4 types of matrix are derive, refine, satisfy, and verify requirement matrices. It's also important to note if you are using the 3D experience platform, these relationships are also accessible to the wider traceability capability within the platform, and therefore that helps with traceability, understanding the impacts of change, validation, and certification activities ultimately. The second tip would probably be Control-C and Control-V working to curtail magic, just like in a Microsoft product. So for example, if you've set a certain style and you want to change the style of all the elements, change one, Control-C, select the other elements, and then Control-V, and all the elements are updated to the new style. It's just like format painter in Word or Excel, and it's one of those little tips, but it could save somebody a lot of time.
Yeah, sounds like it. It's good. Good tips.
Good tips. Abel, do you have any advice for people approaching MBSE?
Yeah, so 2 tips, 2 pieces of advice. First piece of advice really goes back to that model methodology, especially if you're trying to incorporate that. Do focus on that before you even get to the point of actually modeling. It's not only going to help your organization itself and all of their, it doesn't only help modelers understand how to create their model in a way that is consistent between all their models across the organization, but also benefits the customer in that they can better understand their model, especially if they're repeat customers that are coming back for extra, for other projects. The next projects that they see in the future are going to be a lot more understandable by them because they've already had experienced the methodology of your model in your, say, the first project that they worked with. So it'll be a lot easier for them to understand how to read your model if you have that defined methodology. And second piece of advice is really when you're working in an architecture framework, say whether it's DODEF, UAF, or any other architecture framework, if you take a look at any framework's grid of all the views and viewpoints, there are many, and some can be require more work than others. But the main point when you look at the architecture framework is that not every view and every viewpoint is essential to your model. Identify the critical element or critical views within each viewpoint that you need for your model, and you might not even need every single viewpoint to actually create your model. If you try to, over-define your model and try to define a view for every single viewpoint, you will end up oversaturating your model and over-defining, and end up causing more confusion than if you were to only address the critical aspects in some of views and viewpoints. End up tripping up your customer in the process. So yeah, try to only identify the critical views and viewpoints and stick to just defining the purpose and meeting the needs of the customer, and not just trying to write a whole book in the model with every view.
Yeah, I agree with that. The most of the frameworks should be tailored to your the deployment you're trying to do.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is it sounds like it's important to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing before just making your model or trying to put it all out there, because there's a lot of pitfalls and mistakes that you can make. If better to learn from someone who's done it before.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks guys for your
absolutely good.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Abel, Matt, pleasure. Really great tips, great thoughts. Good to get into the weeds of MBSE. Appreciate that.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
So much.
Next time.
And with that, we've made it through an hour and a half of a lot of info, a lot of stuff happening.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's first show at that length of time. I'm happy. I like that. Let's fine tune and make it even better on the next one.
And thanks to everybody who stuck with us this long or who's watching later and fast forwards to the fun parts. But it's been a good a good time. I'm excited to start the new year off with the new format for the show. So hope everyone learned a little bit of something. I know that I did. And any final words of wisdom, Andrew?
Yeah, we're going to be putting a whole bunch of new guests together next month, probably around a similar time. We're even talking about being over in Nashville and doing something over there. We shall see. It will not be singing. Don't worry about it. It'll be something intelligent, we hope. So let's see. Have a great week, month ahead, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Have a good month, everybody.
Okay.